All right, this lesson is for systems of conic sections. So up to this point, we've learned all the different types of conic sections, and now we're going to learn how to solve for when these intersect. The standard today is MA6. It's the same one that we've been working on, just that you'll investigate, graph, and identify properties of conic sections, and then we'll be able to solve them no matter what form they're given to us in. So let's take a quick moment to review. You want to find these in your notes. There are 4 conic sections that we've discussed in this unit. We have the circle, the ellipse, the parabola, and the hyperbola, and each of those have their own equation, and that's what we want to review are the equations. So the equation of a circle, we have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. You'll notice that the whole point behind a circle is that if we were to talk about their denominators, they match. Okay, so a circle is perfectly symmetrical in all ways, and the vertex of course is at hk. The r squared value is the radius. The ellipse was the next one that we learned, and remember we had a vertical ellipse or a horizontal ellipse, and that was based on the denominator. Whichever denominator is bigger is the one that determines the direction of the ellipse. So when the a squared is over the x, then it's a horizontal ellipse because it means that the bigger side is horizontal. If the a squared is under the y, then you have a vertical ellipse because it means that your longer side is vertical. We then had the hyperbola. The hyperbola looked like the ellipse equation, except we were subtracting. So that's how we're going to know the difference between ellipse and hyperbola, is that we have subtraction. Again, we had different numbers for the denominators, but this time the horizontal and vertical was based off of the first variable that we have. So if x is the first variable, this x minus h squared, then we have a horizontal hyperbola, and if y is the first variable here, then we have a vertical hyperbola, and those were the ones that were the 2 pieces, if you remember what that looked like. The parabola was the last one that we talked about, and again we had a horizontal or a vertical parabola, and that was based on whichever variable was squared. So when the x is squared, you have a vertical parabola, and when the y was squared, you had a horizontal parabola. And we talked about this p-value, which would determine if it opens up or down or left or right. So those are the 4 equations to be on the lookout for. When we're solving systems of equations, the goal is to find the points where the graphs intersect. It's important to know that conic sections can have up to 4 solutions. So that is crazy, definitely different from what we've been doing with systems in the past. So you can have 0 solutions where these things never intersect, just 1 solution, 2, 3, 4. I encourage you to kind of think about and maybe even draw some examples where you have each of those types of solutions. You can also Google it if you need some clarification on that. So I want to first go over writing in standard form. This is a piece on your quiz, and we did practice this each time we had one, but now we don't know what type of conic section we're dealing with. So let's address that and kind of have a discussion about how we know what we're working with. So if I'm writing this in standard form, I'm going to be using the completing the square process. So I'm going to start by getting my x's together and my y's together. And I'm going to move the constant to the other side. So I'm going to add 41 to both sides. I'm then going to complete the square of my x. Well, first I'm going to factor out the 4 from the x's. And that leaves me with x squared plus 4x. Then I'm going to factor out a 3 from the y's. I cannot have a coefficient when I'm completing the square, if you remember that from earlier units. Then I'm going to complete the square here. Remember that means that we take the b value, which is 4. I'm going to do that over here. We divide it by 2 and we square it. So that means I'm going to add 4 inside of these parentheses. And then on the other side of my equation, I'm going to make sure to add 16 because 4 times 4 is 16 and I have to keep my equation balanced. Then over here for the y's, I'm going to complete the square. So that is negative 2 divided by 2, and I square that, and that's going to give me a positive 1. So I have y squared minus 2y plus 1. And then to keep my equation balanced, I'm going to add 3 to the other side because 3 times 1 is equal to 3, and that's what I've just added in. I'm now going to factor each one of these. So I have 4 times x plus 2 squared, and I have 3 times y minus 1 squared. I know that because, one, I'm completing the square, so the goal is to get the same factor twice, but it's the two numbers that multiply to the c term and add up to the b term. On this side here, I add all of these together and I get 60. So now, looking at this, I can first see that I don't have the same numbers before with my x and my y, so I know I'm not dealing with a circle. I am adding, so I know I'm not dealing with a hyperbola. And both of these are squared, so I know I'm not dealing with a parabola. So this is going to be an ellipse. I would finish writing this in standard form by making it equal to 1, so I divide everything by 60. That leaves me with x plus 2 squared over 15, because 4 over 60 can be reduced, plus y minus 1 squared over 20, because 3 over 60 can be reduced, is equal to 1. And that is the standard form of the equation, and like I said, we can identify this as an ellipse. Okay, and this would be a vertical ellipse since the larger number is underneath the y. Let's take a look at one more example. So this one here, we go through the same process. We have x squared minus 6x. We put those x's together. We put the y's together, so y squared plus 8y. And we move the constant to the other side, so I have negative 21. Here, for completing the square, I'm going to divide negative 6 by 2. I'm going to square it, and that's going to give me positive 9. So I have x squared minus 6x plus 9, and then I add plus 9 to the other side. Then I do the same process with my y's. So I take 8, divide it by 2, and square it, and that's going to give me 16. So I have y squared plus 8y plus 16, and then I add 16 to the other side as well. I now factor these, so I have x minus 3 squared plus y plus 4 squared is equal to 4. And here, because I have the same numbers being multiplied to x and y, both of them are being multiplied by 1, this would be an example of a circle. So this here is standard form of a circle. We don't divide out that radius number, okay, but we can identify that function there as a circle. The second set of skills for this unit is solving a system. Now, we've solved systems that are linear. We've had a lot of practice with that. Solving systems of conic sections can be a little tricky for one main reason, and that is we don't necessarily, well, let me start with this. We always use substitution. So think for a moment what that substitution process looked like. The second thing that makes it tricky is we don't always get a variable by itself. Sometimes it's okay to use a variable that naturally substitute into the other equation. So let me show you what I mean. I would possibly start this system by subtracting y squared from both sides so that I can get x by itself. That would give me x is equal to negative 4 minus y squared. And then I would do substitution by substituting x with negative 4 minus y squared. Well, when I do that, before I even do any work, what I see is that right here, when I multiply that out, I'm going to end up with a y to the 4th. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to try and figure out how to solve y to the 4th. It's not something that algebraically I'm really, we don't do it. We don't do it a lot. And so I want to look for another way to substitute. So I'm going to skip out on that one, and I'm going to try to get y squared by itself instead. So when I subtract x from both sides, I get y squared is equal to negative 4 minus x. Now, if you notice, my other equation has y squared in it, so there's no reason to get y by itself because this substitutes just like I see it. And so I'm going to substitute this y squared with negative 4 minus x, and now I don't have to work with a power of 4. At this point, I am solving a quadratic, so I need to make it equal 0. So I have x squared minus x minus 14 because I subtracted 10 from both sides, and that's equal to 0. This here is not something that can be factored. There's nothing that multiplies to negative 14 and adds up to negative 1. So I would need to use the quadratic formula. in order to solve this. Remember that the formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So x is equal to negative times negative 1 plus or minus the square root of negative 1 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 14 all over 2 times 1. So that means that x is equal to positive 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 plus 56 over 2. And that means that x is equal to 1 plus or minus the square root of 57 over 2. This is two different x values that I see here. And with that, that only tells me the x part of the coordinate, and I need to make sure that I find the y part of the coordinate as well. I would do that by substituting into my equation. Now, you are not expected to do that with these messy numbers. I truly thought that this was going to come out with no solution. I was anticipating, let me just double check and make sure I didn't do something wrong. Negative 4 minus x. I was wanting that there to come out as a negative number, right? Because if we have a negative in a square root, that's an example of no solutions. So let's take a look at the second example I created and go through that same thought process. So here again, I am looking at this and I want to figure out the easiest way to substitute. So I'm not going to get a variable by itself necessarily, but I certainly have these x squareds that match in both of them. And so let's go ahead and use this bottom equation and get the x squared by itself. So I'm going to add 3y squared to both sides. That gives me 5x squared is equal to 473 plus 3y squared. Get your calculators ready for these big numbers here. Divide everything by 5 and x squared equals 473 over 5 plus 3y squared over 5. Now x squared is in my other equation, so I'm going to go ahead and substitute this expression in for it. So I have 4 times 473 over 5 plus 3y squared over 5 plus 5y squared equals 445. Now, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and distribute the 4, okay, and don't freak out too much. I promise this will start to look a little prettier. So 4 times 473 is 1,892, and then 4 times 3y squared, I'm sorry, that's over 5. 4 times 3y squared is 12y squared, and that's over 5. To make my life easier, I don't want fractions, so I'm going to multiply the entire equation by 5 to get rid of that denominator. So when I do that, I get 1,892 plus 12y squared plus 25y squared is equal to 2,225. Whoops, I missed a 2. Now I'm just solving for y, so I'm going to add my y's together. I get 1,892 plus 37y squared is equal to 225. 2,225. I'm going to subtract 1,892. So 37y squared is equal to 333. I'm going to divide by 37, and y squared is equal to 9. And I'm going to take the square root. And when I take the square root, I get y equals plus or minus 3. Remember that this is only half of my solution because solutions are coordinates, right? X and y coordinates. So I'm going to take these y values and I'm going to substitute them into this equation right here to solve for x. So I have 5x squared is equal to 473 plus 3 times 3 squared. So 5x squared is equal to 473 plus 27. 5x squared is equal to 500. Divide by 5, and x squared equals 100. When I take the square root, x is equal to plus or minus 10. So here is an example where we see 4 solutions, because you can have positive 10, positive 3, positive 10, negative 3, negative 10, positive 3, and negative 10, negative 3. I would encourage you when you finish one of these problems to check it in Desmos and see if you did it correctly. You should not rely heavily on Desmos, but that would be a way to check your work.